the technology stuff. So much work.
I'm going to try some headphones and see if it works.
Sounds good to me.
But I haven't used them on Discord yet, so we'll see how it goes.
All right, we are live, and we got about 50 seconds to go here. This is an easy ride, easy pace. One and a half to 2 watts per kilogram. All right, here we go, rolling. So welcome to the ODivaZ Chat and Chill ride. This is a ride that happens every Monday at 6 a.m. Central Time in the US. And we have our conversation through Discord. Lots of ladies here today. Great to see everyone. So as usual, we will talk about topics of interest to the group. Everybody's welcome to join in, ask questions, bring their own topics, share their experiences. That's what makes this ride fun, engaging, and interesting for everyone. So this week we have a special guest with us. We have Beth York. Hey, Beth.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning. So Beth has been a member of the Zwift community for a little while and involved in the Zwift Academy last year. Beth also leads workouts for Zwift Academy currently, and she has recently launched a project called Zwift Watch that you might have heard about and you might have seen in social media, featuring profiles of riders from Zwift, the Ride-On Rider profile. So we'll talk about those, but just start, Beth, thanks again for joining us. So can you
Thanks
tell
for
us,
having me.
Can you tell us more about your involvement with Zwift Academy?
Yeah, sure. So Zwift last spring, and as part of setting up my 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 trainer, and I was trying to learn everything I could about what Zwift was, and I stumbled upon Zwift Academy, and I thought at first, I'm like, oh, this is going to teach me how to use the game, or I didn't really know what it was. And then when I read about it, and it's a series of last year, I don't know if they're going to do the same format, but last year it was a number of group rides, coach training sessions through the workout mode, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. So, whoops, I think I lost you. There you are. And so I signed up, and one of the best sort of ways to learn about Zwift and get involved in the community.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, met a lot of really inspiring, strong riders. Where I end up sort of doing a lot of solo work because of my schedule. And I finally felt like I had, other women who were similarly matched interest and passion. And so it was really quite engaging community level as well as a fitness level. And I would say I kind of came into the program injured. Of course, who else wants to spend August on a trainer? But there was 100 of us that kind of completed the 27 workouts. I think it was, gosh, I forget how many number of group rides we did, but my level of fitness through my injury increased substantially, and it meets you where you are. It's not like you have to be some superstar cyclist to do the program. It's all of the workouts, as you might know, are in the workout mode and use your FTP as a basis. So it's not completely tailored to you. And it was the first time I actually had structured cycling training with watts. And so I learned a ton, and, you know, it amounted to improvements, meeting other women cyclists, and really marketable improvement outside.
Sure. And I think it was a big success, and it's bound to be even bigger this year. If those of you who are interested can go on the workouts menu in Zwift and see the types of workouts. Now, I know that some ladies here are interested in the Zwift Academy this year. And Roxanne, we were talking a little bit about your involvement as well, and you wanted to get involved this year. And one of the things that came up was, you know, it's hard to be on a trainer, I guess, in the summer, depending on where you are in the world. So could we, Roxanne, do you have any comments about that?
Well, yeah, I think for me, it was really hard, and being injured, it was sort of my option, so it worked out. But I understand they're going to be starting it later this year in September, and I'm hoping, and I don't have any details, this is just sort of my observations, is I'm hoping that will mean more people, they moved the dates so that more people could take advantage of participating. Last year, there were like 1,200 women, which is pretty amazing for an inaugural event. Yeah. And then I think 100 of us, if you're wondering about that rainbow jersey, that's the that the women completed the program here received for completing all the workouts and rides in the prescribed time period. So I always wear that with a little bit of pride, because the buckets of sweat that were under my trainer to earn that. And, you know, people outside of the game that don't know about Zwift, you know, would probably think I'm crazy that I'm like, I got the rainbow jersey.
Right.
But it does mean something, and it means a lot. And, you know, to follow, you know, Leah, who won last year, and, you know, it's like I was on group rides with her, and we were making jokes, and, you know, it really humanizes the sport, and, you know, I feel like I have someone to root for, you know, that feels like, you know, feels really cool. It's part of the same kind of group. We all did the same things together.
Yep. That's
so
awesome.
I would encourage anybody to do it. You know, even if you think you might not be able to complete it, there's nothing to be intimidated about. There's nothing, the only thing you have to gain is sort of improvement. And so I would really encourage as many women to do it as they can. It's a remarkable experience.
Agreed. Yeah, no, this is great. And between Zwift Academy seasons, if you will, there are a couple of events on the calendar on a weekly basis, and many of you actually join those. I recognize your names from it. So there are workouts that Beth leads, that I lead, to keep that community engaged, and hopefully getting everybody together and excited for the next season of Zwift Academy.
Exactly. We broke up a little bit there, but the two rides that led are the Tuesday morning sprint workout. It's 5:35 a.m. East Coast U.S. time, and it's always been a really fun ride. And then one of my other pals that I ride a lot with, Inga Jansen. She and I were spending time trying to slog up the mountain to earn our Tron bike. And we were like, oh, we should have, like a Queen of the Mountain series for ladies who want to do a little bit longer ride. And, there's been the ODivaZ Saturday race. So we were like, well, what a nice compliment to that would be sort of endurance training. So in April and May, sort of the opposite Saturdays of the race, we've been leading sort of longerish rides with challenging climbs, and it's been really fun.
That's great. It's also a good ride for endurance and skills and climbing, just working on different things. Yep. And we'll go back to the ODivaZ race in a few minutes. But before we do, Beth, tell us about the project that you've been leading involving the ladies on Zwift and ZwiftWatch. What is ZwiftWatch?
Well, ZwiftWatch kind of was hatched in my head when I just kept being blown away by all of the interesting people that I would see on the ladies page, and these just amazing stories that were inspiring, whether it's, career changers, everyone trying to sort of make their life work. And I was just so blown away. And, let me try to encapsulate these real people behind the avatar in a way to sort of increase that connection, because it's really hard to explain how you can have a connection with somebody from riding around, in a virtual world. But you really do forge these connections. And I wanted to sort of bring forth sort of that awesomeness that I was seeing in sort of a nice, engaging format. And I am a video producer by trade. So I was like, well, there's so many great things that their community already does with, with these types of rides and, shared learning. Well, what can I add? How can I contribute my skills and combine it with my passion? And ZwiftWatch.tv was born.
Yes, and Kirsten is commenting, that's why the videos are so awesome. Yeah, that's
Thank you.
Yeah, so you might have, if you have not seen the videos, I encourage you to go to the ZwiftWatch.tv Facebook page and look at them also on YouTube and see some of the profiles already there. It's just great to see and learn more about the ladies that we ride with on Zwift, and just seeing them, recognizing the face and understanding what Zwift means to them. It's just a great project.
Well, thank you. I encourage, I know some people are more shy about these things than others, and but I encourage anybody who wants to, share their story to reach out to me, because, I promise to handle your, you kind of, it's like you open up your bathrobe to somebody. You're like, hi, here I am. This material, and what are you going to do with it? And so, trust is a big part of what I'm trying to do, is to handle your story and present it in a way that is genuine to who you are, reflects who you are. And so if anyone was feeling shy, and maybe now that they've seen a couple and want to participate, I would absolutely love it. And then the other thing I'm starting is another series called Rider to Rider. And these are similar to the profile in the sense that we get to meet a face behind the avatar, but more that, there's a lot of shared learning that happens. And, I'll go back and search a Facebook post and say, all right, what did so-and-so say about this? And what did so-and-so say about that? Because really good nuggets of information in the comments. And I want to go back and find that information. So, what if some of the riders who have something to share, what if we packaged up some tips? So we're going to have a rider to rider series on different topics. I'm working on one now that is sort of endurance racing focused, so that we can kind of be specific to a type of race or style of riding. So I'm psyched to be working on that. Hopefully I'll get that out this week, depending on my editing availability. But yeah, so if other riders have things to share besides things about themselves, these rider-to-rider series is a great way to share knowledge and packaging them up in a video format, and so people can easily digest them.
Wonderful. So we have a couple of ladies here on Discord with us. Does anybody have any questions or comments that they want to make? Don't be shy.
Right, and you can even hear me breathing. And this is supposed to be an easy ride. I'm like, oh yeah, when you talk.
How long were you on Zwift before you started to kind of have that idea for Zwift TV?
Well, I've been on for about a year now. Probably about 6 months ago, I started thinking about it, and I was a little shy about reaching out about it because, you know, I hadn't really crystallized what it was that I could offer or what it was that I could do. So it was sort of an evolution in my mind of how I could execute on an idea and provide something that people would enjoy. So probably about 6 months ago, and then probably about 3 months ago is when I just sort of threw it out to the universe and put it on the ladies' Facebook page. And I'm like, all right, guys, this is what I'm going to do. And, you know, sometimes when you say something out loud, it's the first step in making it real. So, you know, that was me sort of, you know, kind of putting my toe in the water and then realizing I'm going to jump right in, you know. So kind of how it goes.
That's really inspiring. I also do video production, so it's really cool to see how you've married your two passions.
Oh, awesome. That's great. Well, hey, you know, we should talk offline. That I definitely would love to talk to you about your experience with video production and what type of projects you do.
Sounds cool. I'm from Singapore, so, you know, we could give you some information about Asia, I guess. Yeah, could do.
Well, that would be great, because one of the things I know with these profiles is that some people, English isn't their first language. And my objective is to really reflect the diversity of the what I call the global village of Zwift. And I would love to have people who may want to contribute, but feel, you know, if English isn't their first language, I'd love to have them do it in their own language, and we can add subtitles with the help of someone who can do the good translation for me. So, because I want to hear the voices, you know.
Yeah.
So it would be great. We could definitely talk about that. So, and for sure, that would be awesome.
Brilliant. Ideas machine.
Sounds good.
Yes, and Kirsten just put a comment in here that one of the best things about Zwift also is getting to ride and know people from all over the world. Very true.
I couldn't agree more. I love when I see all the different flags, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing, so amazing. And recently, I posted about gummy bears and Red Bull, and Carrie Conover, who I've raced alongside with, and you know, she posted a candy. She's like, "What about these? We have these," and she's gonna mail me some. That is so cool. Like, that just makes my day that someone, you know, from overseas is gonna mail me some candy I haven't tried. And I know that's really silly, but I'm so excited about that.
Yes, that's awesome. Yeah,
And we get to share.
or those of us who were born in a country, live in another, and then try to decide which flag to put on Zwift. Do I put the flag that I'm from? Do I put the flag where I'm at? You know?
Yeah.
So there's some of that too.
Of course.
All right. So we talked about races. We touched on races during this conversation already, and that's how Beth and I connected. At first, it was through the ODivaZ ladies race that happens the first and third Saturdays of every month. And we race together quite often, Beth.
Yep.
So we thought that racing could be a good topic to cover as well. The ODivaZ race, for example, is a great race for beginners as well as experienced racers. It just helps you understand the dynamics of a race. Yes, it is in a virtual world, but you still put on real effort. There are a lot of principles that still apply. For example, do I chase the group in front of me? Do I hold with the group that I'm at? When do I do a breakaway? Should I even race in the first place? Why would I race? I would say I have gotten so much stronger since I started doing these races. And the more you do them, the more you learn about yourself as a cyclist. The more you learn about your limits, your weaknesses, your strengths. You can see improvements over time, and you get to know your fellow racers over time, if it's the same race, such as the one that I mentioned on Zwift, so that you start to apply tactics as well. So I think now that the outdoor season is upon us, for many of us anyway, it's a good time to talk about races, indoors and outdoors. And I recognize that many of you have participated in that race. So I guess I'll start with a question to the group that you can answer on Discord or type in, however you feel comfortable. Do you do races? Let's just start with that one, yes or no?
No.
I know that many of us here do races in real life as well as on Zwift. Megan is new to racing, Ollie's done two. Indoors or outdoors, Megan? Was it a Zwift race or was it outdoors race? Zwift races, great. That's a great way to start. That should, like I said, help you build some knowledge and then take the risk and go race outdoors. The other thing is sometimes we're so hard on ourselves and we think that in order to race, we need to be really, really good and we need to have a great chance at winning, which is not true. You have to start somewhere. And in fact, it's even better if you don't have experience because then you say to yourself, I'm just here for the experience. And you see what happens is you never know. You never know what's going to happen. You might be surprised with your own performance. But really, the fun thing about racing, when I started cycling, I didn't think about racing at all. But then I realized after I did my first race, that that's really when everything comes together. And what I mean by that is, that's really when you finally see why you've been training. And you can finally see the results of your training. Not necessarily because you won, but just the fact that you're there alongside other racers. It's just a great energy, something to be involved in. And so we can talk about some tactics in racing for those of you who have questions about it. I'll start with some principles that are applicable to all races. And when I say all races, I leave out mountain biking and I leave out crits because they're so specific. So let's see a scenario of a gravel or road race that is maybe, and time trials too. That's not a race, right? But scenario where you have a 62-mile, for example, race on the road or in gravel. And my experience with my first race, I knew that from the gate, everybody was just gonna go super hard and super fast. So as soon, if there was a neutral rollout with a vehicle in front holding the pace of the race, as soon as the race was open, there was going to be some major breakaways. So I learned that you need to try to position yourself right from the beginning, and you should expect that first hour of the race to be very difficult. You should expect to put out an effort at or near threshold. for the first hour of that race. So you can hold a good position. Now, it's tricky when it's a big event because you don't know the other racers, and you have to, on the spot, try to identify a group that you can hang on with. But one thing is certain, if you don't know, just go hard and try to get in the group. Now, one thing about races, you have to conserve energy. So you do have the first hour that is a hard hour, and there are a lot of skills that come into play on how you position yourself, et cetera. We can go through those. But if you think about it, in a long race, there will really only be about 3, 4, 5 massive explosive efforts that you're going to have. For example, closing a gap, making a break, holding the wheel off a climb, responding to an attack, or sprinting. The rest of the time, you're hanging on, and you should try to conserve by positioning yourself in a teleclimb. So the place to position yourself as well is near the 20%, the front 20% of the group that you're in. Because typically, let's say, if you're in a group of 100 people, if you're right in the middle of the pack, you're probably using only 45% of the same power or energy that the first riders are using. So you're conserving there. If you're in the back, you're probably only conserving 20%. There's a lot of surges in the back, and it gets tricky. So no one is riding up in the line, right? It's just a group, just like we are right now in Zwift. So being towards the front, you'll be able to save more energy, you decrease the chances that you're going to get dropped. And then things come up, and you have to be able to react. So if there's a group that breaks away, et cetera, and we can go through those. But perhaps we can take some questions from you ladies on racing. Anything that you want to talk about specifically? Or questions you might have? And Beth, you could comment too, if you wish, on our experiences riding and racing on Zwift, and then on your outdoor races as well.
Sure. Let's see if there's any other ladies that want to chime in before I ask, because I have questions. All right, well, I'll start us off, and if people have questions, I'll stop. Oh, look, so it looks like someone just asked Megan.
So Megan was asking how to best identify your category on the race when you sign up for it. So we're talking about then Zwift races. That's where you can place yourself, or you should place yourself in a category. Typically, the race description on the events module will have a list that will say A group will be for riders at power to weight X to Y, let's say power to weight 3.7 and above, or 4 and above. Category B will be the next tier down, power to weight maybe 3 to 3.7. C is the next tier down, so on and so forth. So if you do an FTP test, an FTP test is the test that, the 20-minute test. So there are several ways to measure FTP, but for simplicity purposes, let's say that you take the short FTP test on Zwift, which is the maximum effort that you can produce for 20 minutes. And so 95% of that number will be your FTP, or your maximum threshold power, your functional threshold power. So you take that number and you divide that number by your weight in kilograms. So then you have your power to weight ratio that you can use to see where you fall within the A through D categories. Some races will place the riders according to their power to weight produced. So let's say that you join a race and you forget to put the category, or you don't know. I know that ODivaZ will go through and place you in the category that you race in. It is a lot of work for the organizers, though, so it's better when you just put on your own. I know that for other races on Zwift, you actually get DQ'd, you get disqualified if you do not enter your category, or if you enter the wrong category, which is something to keep an eye on as well. And then for outdoors, well, there's very strict rules from the UCI and other governing bodies that will tell you where you fall within, but you're either an amateur or you're a pro. There was another question that popped up and I didn't catch that. If somebody saw that and could repeat that back to me. How to keep motivation in a tough group. So I guess the motivation should really come from being on the race in the first place. You would hope that that race will make you really want to keep going. But realistically speaking, you might not feel that great for the whole length of the race. I had a 100-mile gravel race recently, and I had pockets of time where I remember thinking to myself, why am I even here? I don't know that I can hold this for too long. There were crosswinds. The gravel was super thick, and the rocks were big, and lots of attacks. I was just halfway through. So you have pockets like that. But again, it's about knowing yourself. The more you do them, the more you learn, and the more you get used to these. And then you recognize that. You say, you know what, I'm having a little pocket of time here that I'm not feeling great, but this is going to pass. And that's interesting, because you might not feel great through the whole time. It's just like doing a century. You're not going to feel awesome the whole time. There will be times that you're not going to, you're going to say, I don't know. Acknowledge that. Keep going. Because really no race is over until it's over, and you never know. And the other motivation is, well, I guess you also need to be strategic about the group that you're hanging on with. You need to understand and try to gauge if you're too strong for your own abilities. Because then you might burn some matches, as we say, and get tired and not be able to hang on for the rest of the race. If you're with a group that is much stronger than you, and you know you cannot hang, you might just look around, see if there's a group coming behind you that you might fall back to for the long, long races. Anyone else has any other comments?
I'll tag on to that because my only experience in racing until Zwift and these 2 road races I did this spring was triathlon and time trial. I signed up for a couple of races to, 1, sort of figure out what the experience was, 2, to use it as a training for a long ride I have coming up. So my objectives weren't to go win or try to crush it. My objective was to sort of survey what happens, hang on, and take really kind of see what it was about. And I would say that the dynamics, it was a 65, well, 2, there was one 56-mile race and one 65-mile race. And both of them had dynamics of a group ride. They had dynamics of sort of pace lining. They had dynamics of what I've seen in Zwift races with attacks and people trying to soften your legs and trying to get some distance. So it was almost like they had like an arc and you needed to be prepared for where you were in the race. And is that typical? Is it typical that you see that it will have different characteristics ride on these long races? Is that typical?
Yeah, so there's always the by-the-book rules or the by-the-book tactics, things
Yep.
that apply across the board. But then, so it's like a chess game. You know the rules, they're fairly simple. But once you're out in the field, there's so many complexities that you're going to encounter. And you need to be able to play your pieces depending on that complexity. Of course, the more experienced racers will know exactly how to position themselves. I'll go back to my first race. I had two rules in mind. One was stay towards the front of whichever group you're in, and don't burn your matches too much early on and go hard the first hour. From that, things that are good to know is, well, you mentioned baselining, Beth. It's something that you might work on in a group ride with the club. Then there's echelon, which is also something else to learn before you go into a race. And it's essentially how you position yourself according to the wind. So what happens is you're out there and you're in the group. Now, the group is going to have to work together somehow. And you're going to have to feel if those riders want to work with you. And everybody is also trying to conserve energy. So you see if they're going to work together, they might try to drop you. You want to position yourself in the middle. They might not let you do that for too long. And that's when the bets are off and you try to do your best. So, but I would say, for example, I have this one race that I went to that I think is a great example. It's the 100-kilometer gravel race. I was in the third, let's say, fastest group from the start. So the first group was extremely fast. They went right away from the start. Then there was a second group behind them. I was in the third. And it was a very hard group to hang on with. They were going very fast, but I was hanging on. And I positioned myself okay. I was able to draft. So you need to know the wind. You need to know where the wind is coming from so you can position yourself. But then what happened was 2 or 3 of us took the wrong turn. Or actually we missed a turn. And boom, just like that, I got dropped from the group. And at that point I thought, great, my race is over. But I'm here, so I might as well just ride the course. Although I did turn around and try to bridge the gap and catch up to that group in front of me by myself. And I will tell you, 7, 8, 9 minutes after putting out super hard effort, I knew I couldn't sustain it. It was 40 minutes in to a 3.5-hour race. So I waited for the group behind me to come over. So I slowed down, regained energy, wait for the group behind, joined them, and was able to rest a little more. Now that group was too slow for me. So now I thought, great, I can either just stay in this very slow group or at some point try to bridge to the next one. But it was, and you have to be mindful of the gap. So you always need to be watching how far ahead is the group in front of you. If it's 30 seconds, you're going to be in a pursuit. If it's less than that, then you can sprint to them. Well, I couldn't really see that group, to be honest, so I was just sitting in that slow group. But then something interesting happened. 3 riders from that slow group started to ride together faster. And I thought, well, this has got to be a breakaway. You're going to break away from the slow group. I want to jump in with them. And that's what I did. So they accelerated. And I don't even know if they knew each other. I certainly didn't know them. But I just jumped on. And what we did, we bridged to the group in front of us. Because at that point, that group in front of us, that was a faster group, they got tired and they slowed down. And to bridge, we were doing the pace lining, which is essentially a rotating pace line. You have a line of riders, we're 4. The person in front pulls for maybe 10 seconds and falls back. The next one comes, falls back. So it's like a rotating baseline, very, very fast. And I thought I can do this for a while until we bridged the next group. So that was very tiring. That was a big effort, but we did. And fortunately, the group that we bridged to was now settled into a more mild pace, at least for me, and I was able to hang on to them. Do you actually talk to the other riders or just try to read what they're doing? Well, I didn't talk to any of the riders, Kirsten. I'll ask others here if they have experience with that. I think you try to read them, and maybe there is some communication, but I think most of the time, no, we just have a poker face on. I mean, there's all sorts of things you can do. You can fake that you're tired. You can fake that you're not tired. Anyone else has any comments about that? Communicating with others?
I'll chime in because, you know, not knowing what it did, and I was with a lead group, and we were going down a hill. I was holding my line, and the road got kind of rough. New England, it's all potholes this time of year. And I got a pinch flat, so I had to get adjust my flat. They had wheel support, so I had a really quick change. Great,
oh, good.
But still, it was like 90 seconds, right? Because the guy had to park and come over to me and swap out the wheel. But it was enough. He's like, "Go, go, go! You can catch them." And so that little bit of inspiration made me feel really good. So I was chasing, and I chased for 20 miles, like full pressure. I was just like, see if you can do it. And I was so punched out, and I knew time trial land, and knew, and here's the different, you know, between Zwift races and in real life races. I was like, do I fall back? I don't know how far back they are, and I'm like, you know what? I'm here to experience this. Let's see. And I really, it was true. Like, it didn't matter that how hard I was pushing. I wasn't going to catch the group. The gap was too big. I kept seeing them go around the bend, and I would do this rubber band thing where they'd go up a hill, and I was on the flat, close a little bit, and I knew as soon as they went down the top side of the mountain of the little hill that they were going to be gone again. So we were like doing this rubber band thing, and then like about 5 miles to go, a group of 3 women came up behind me, and they're like, "Oh my God, we've been trying to catch you," and they said, "Hop on." And I was like, "Oh my God, okay." And I was just like, I don't know if they just sort of had, I don't know, some kind of respect for the effort that they were trying to chase me, and they hadn't took them some time to catch me, or what it was, but they were so nice. And I know that that's not necessarily typical, but they're like, "Come on." And I'm like, okay. And I've done pace lining, but not in a race situation. And they're like, "Okay, pull through." Great. And I'm like, "Guys, I'm so dead." Like, I was not playing poker face. I was just sort of like, I crushed it. I killed myself. I don't have much left. And they're like, "We don't either. Just keep working." And I'm like, okay. And it was so cool because it was like, I didn't, you know, like I wasn't there to get prize money, you know, I was just trying to. So I had the best experience for like the last 5 miles, just like punching up the side, pulling over, and doing these like circles. It just felt like, oh my God, I never get a chance to rest, even though I'm in the draft for 5 seconds. You know, I never.
Yeah.
Go. And so we talked, and they were really great. And then they dropped me on the hill because the last mile, I just didn't have it. And they just, it was this like mile, it finished up on a hill, and I didn't have any legs left, and off they went. But, you know, at the finish line, it was really awesome. I was like, "Thanks, guys. You know, that was really fun working together." And, you know, I know that that's not going to be the experience in every race, but I feel like that camaraderie, I was sort of open to it. And I know there was definitely some women in that race that were not going to be like cheerful and friendly.
Right,
I could just
right.
tell. There are definitely some women that were like, "I'm in it to win it, sister. See ya." And
Yeah.
so you kind of you can read those people. I felt like, you know, whether or not I was trying to like tell them when I was kind of moving over, kind of communicating my position, I could tell which ones were friendly and which ones weren't. So, but it was really fun.
And that also reminds me, going back to the motivation piece, that which is you're suffering, but guess what? Everybody around you is suffering too. So just keep going.
No, for sure. Like, hang on as long as you can. And, some days you're going to have good legs, I think, in any sort of race situation. And, at the end of the day, I don't feel like I'm really racing the other women. I feel like I'm racing myself to see what I can do to challenge myself. And, sure, I would love, a medal and podium, and I've got those in triathlon, which was pretty awesome. But at the end of the day, it's sort of like I'm out there testing my limits. What can I do? What can I bring? And, just this is how I feel about it, sort of like testing yourself is really what it's about.
Yeah, true. And going back to Zwift a little bit too, when I hop on the ODivaZ ladies race, and I know many of the riders because of course I'm in that race every time, I know the wheels that I won't try to hang on to because I know the riders who are going to be so fast and they're going to be holding 4 watts per kilogram, which I cannot do for 40 minutes. So that also gives you some knowledge on what you can or might be able to do or not. But going back to a big group outdoors on a race, let's say you have a tight pack. And Beth, I know that you're a competitive skydiver, which is mind-blowing to me for many years. And you were part of a world record skydive in 2004, which is amazing. How does that translate into what you do today on the bike?
Yeah, well, so skydiving, has a lot of parallels to biking, and that, there's a component of danger, and there's a component of skill that can keep you safe. And, with the skydiving team, you group up with people who have a similar skill, that you can work together, that you like their personalities, and you can work together. Basically, the discipline was 4-way, which was 4 women out of the plane. First 35 seconds, you try to go through a sequence of patterns and do it as many times as you can in the first 35 seconds. So when I'm in a tight peloton, it's the same sort of level of focus that I have to call on and awareness. So, when I'm with my teammates coming out of a plane, I can see okay, it's like time slows down. I see her hand goes to my grip. That's when I have to pop my knee, and that's when I have to do this. So what's my job? When am I doing it? And what am I seeing? Because I can't talk. So I tried to apply those skills when I was out on the road, where it's sort of okay, hyper aware, anticipate, and don't be a victim. And, if someone goes down in front of you, you're going down. But at the same time, you can kind of see, wow, that person's really wobbly when they take a drink, or that person, so you're kind of just absorbing your surroundings constantly. There's no time in a skydive to, think about anything other than you're doing, and have this heightened sense of awareness. So it's really translated well, where I think I see a lot. My awareness is really good. My head is on a swivel. I'm trying to pay attention, even if there's not communication. I think that's really important. The difference for me, which is scary, is that when I did the world record, all of those people were invited, and that was 150 women from around the world who were invited, and we did a formation, and we raised $500,000 for breast cancer. So it was really super special and awesome. But all of those women, you knew that they were invited there, and you knew that their skill level was matching the challenge. So when you're out on the bike, you're okay, oh, thanks. I see a wow over there. So when you're on the bike, everybody's an unknown, and you don't have the benefit of having them be like pre-screened of like, okay, these are all people who are super heads up. These are all people who, you know, have the right amount of skill to be what they are. And now in cycling, I'm a pretty good bike handler, but I feel like I'm one of those people. You know, I'm like, I don't have enough experience and I don't want to hurt anyone because this is serious business. So, you know, so keeping my head on a swivel, trying to be heads up, trying to be considerate, do the safe thing rather than the aggressive thing, be predictable, hold my line, give people room, communicate if I can. So that's sort of kind of the way that I've been trying to use the skills I have and apply it to something that I'm fairly new at.
That's amazing, Beth. It's amazing to me. It's fantastic that you have that experience. And it, to me, is also amazing that you can even think when you're out there in the air. Oh my gosh. I think I would just be like, oh my God, this is crazy. Those are great comments, great things to keep in mind. And I think too that there are probably other instances of other things that we do, other activities that we do.
Exactly.
That can also translate into skills that you can apply on the bike.
Yeah. I think so, you know, and as far as thinking, it kind of comes back to the mental prep, right? Is that, you know, with skydiving, it sets some discipline. It could be any sport. It doesn't have to be something that sounds as crazy as that. But like, you know, I had a very methodical way of approaching my training, which was, you know, we would have mental visualizations. We would walk through things on the ground and using sort of a system and discipline made sure that we sort of repeated the same tasks over and over again. So it became ritualistic that, you know, we would land, we would talk about the next dive, we would, you know, debrief the one we just did, talk about what went wrong, talk about what we could do better. And so the teamwork, you know, I miss those things about the team, you know, I miss those things about, you know, the team. So I try to apply the visualization to racing. I try to apply those sort of mental tricks of like, okay, it's awareness about yourself as well.
Right.
So.
Right, sure.
You touched on that too, about just knowing what your abilities are, knowing where you're at, self-monitor, you know.
And that's the other good thing about learn by doing. You just do more of them. You become more aware of yourself and others. Yep. Anybody else has any other comments that they want to share? I'm so glad that so many of you are in Discord today, so I know you can hear us. That's great. So I think
this ride is really, really welcome. It's really welcome. Nice one.
One other advantage of, I guess, over skydiving, doing a road race is you might be able to do some course recon. So, although you don't need that for skydiving, but that's the one thing you can do ahead of time. You get to the course ahead of time or the day before and ride the course if you can. Now, if that's not possible, what you might be able to do is understand, let's say, what the last couple of kilometers or miles of that race are like. Is it a hill? Is it a descent? Is it a flat? And strategize on how you're going to finish it. So what you might be able to do is do your warm-up from the finish line into the course. So ride it backwards from the back to the beginning for, let's say that your warm-up is 20 minutes. And at least you have an idea of that terrain and what's going to look like. Now, who knows where you're going to be when you arrive at that point in the race. You might be with a group, you might not. But at least it gives you an idea. Is there a sharp turn at the end that you have to deal with? etc., which might be helpful.
That would have been super helpful. I felt like I was like, oh, so the finish is on an uphill. I could do that, but I live in a flat area, so it was like a mile. I was like, oh God.
The other interesting thing about uphill and attacks uphill, you might think that the attacks uphill happen on the hill, and you might be surprised to know that it is actually at the top of the hill, when it sort of levels off, that a lot of the attacks happen. Because a lot of the riders have a tendency to slow down a little bit at the top. They're like, okay, I'm done with this climb. I put out a lot of power to the climb, and I can ease up a little. Well, others, more experienced riders, will take advantage of that and really power through that top and that little flat area at the top and drop the group. It happened to me in the first ladies race. We were in the London Classic course, and it's a flat course, but there's a tiny little hill when we come around after the red carpet. And I went through that, but at the top, I eased up just a little, and I lost my position. I lost it, and I couldn't catch up at the end. So I learned my lesson on that one.
What's the best positioning to be on a hill? I mean, I know you can't always choose, but people have different climbing abilities. And I definitely found like, you know, on the climbs, they kept coming. We're like, okay, here comes another one. And, you know, not really going as fast, so the drafting is less of an issue, but maybe the consideration is sort of the top of the hill. Is that, so if you position yourself towards the front, you're going to be ready for those attacks? Is that kind of the philosophy?
I think that's it. You know, I really think that if you don't know the riders around you, you know yourself. So you know if you're a good climber or not. And you look at the hill, you know if it's a steep one, short, long, etc. The odds will be in your favor if you're towards the front. And then you keep with the pace of that group, unless, let's say, it's a strategic location and you want to attack and break away. But are you going to do that by yourself? It all depends on how much you have left on that race. But yeah, I would say being towards the front is the best place to be.
And what about, so I tried, one of the things that Zwift has also helped me, I have a smart trainer, so my gearing, so I'm anticipating the hills outside, and I'm getting to the gear closer that I want to be. So if I need to pop down to the little ring, I'm there before I need it, so to speak. And so some people maybe stay in a heavy gear, come out of the saddle for energy conservation, if that's the objective. Do you save more energy if you've gone down to the little ring and you're turning out a high cadence, or if you just sort of like, I'm just going to blast over at a slow cadence at a higher gear, like coming out of the saddle, which is more effective, or does it?
That's a great question. So there's 2 points to that question. One is, again, if you're towards the end of the race and you can give your all, and you go faster by standing up off the saddle, by all means do that. If not, and there are a couple of hills ahead of you in that race, as a general rule, high RPM, so small ring, and so higher cadence will conserve more energy for sure. And that's also applicable not only on the hills, but at the beginning. In the first half, as your legs are fresh, and that's applicable to centuries too, long endurance rides, stay on the high end of the cadence because you save your muscles more that way. All right, ladies.
That's a great tip. Thank you.
Sure. Well, this has been so much fun. I hope everybody enjoyed it. So we're 2 minutes. We have about 2 minutes left here. Really want to thank everybody for joining. Special thanks to Beth. Great to have you on the ride. Great to hear about your experiences. I hope you'll
Thanks
join
for
us.
having me.
I hope you'll join us next week as well. And I'll post some links for further reading if you're interested on the topics that we talked about today. And I'll share that with the group in the Facebook ladies page. And there's always the live stream that you're able to go back to if you want. That's a great way to recover on a Monday.
Thank you very much for having me. Have a great day, ladies.
So do we have the race, not the race, but the endurance series this Saturday, Beth?
Say that again?
Are we going to have the endurance series on Saturday, the ride?
I hope so. It's my goal, getting that endurance rider to rider segment out possible.
Awesome. All right, thanks again, everyone. And as a reminder, tomorrow is workout day. You can catch the sprint workout with Beth at 5:30 Eastern, or some VO2 at 7:30 Eastern with me. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.
Bye.